Hi, welcome to day two of the Bad Girl Visibility Workshop. I'm super excited for today's training where we get to alchemize all of the shit that we stirred up yesterday. Okay. This is the fun piece of the workshop. Yesterday, it's kind of like, we got to look at some awkward stuff. We got to look at some cringy stuff. We have to get really brutally self-honest about some of the not so desirable traits and parts of our life and our embodiment. And today we actually get to flip all of that around in a way that's actually so nutritive and so supportive to us being seen. Okay. So, yesterday I spoke about alchemy and I spoke about duality. And one of the big pieces, like when we're talking about alchemy, we're really talking about integration, right? We're looking at the parts of ourselves, the aspects of our personality, the traits that we have disconnected from, right? And when we talk about alchemy and integration, we're talking about taking the parts of ourselves out of the shadows and out of the darkness into the light, reuniting with it, right? Coming into deeper union and ultimately deeper integrity with our being, right? Because integration and integrity move hand in hand. And the more integrity we come into, right, by looking at our bad side, by unlocking the gifts, by embracing it and owning it, the more power we actually unlock. Okay. Because as I spoke to yesterday, it actually takes a tremendous amount of energy and power to resist these parts of ourselves, right? To push things down, to cut ourselves off, to pretend like aspects of ourselves don't exist, or putting all of this effort, intention, and energy into performing, right? Into pretending we're not this way, into managing our energy, right? So when we're able to alchemize, to integrate, to work with our bad side, we release so much power. We open up so much more, and we allow ourselves to be seen. All of the energy that we're subtly, low key investing in procrastination, self sabotage, diminishment, right? Being really hard on ourselves, all of these sneaky ways that this bad side comes up to put a damper on our visibility. All of that gets unlocked and opened up as we alchemize and integrate, which is what we're going to do today. Now, I want to say that the common challenge that has brought everyone to this space, right, is visibility. We want in our business, in our marketing, to be seen by more people, right? To get our message, to get ourselves out there in a bigger and brighter way, right? And so when we look at marketing and we look at visibility, I want to speak to the role that plays in entrepreneurship, and especially for everyone in this workshop. Like, I don't think anybody would be attracted to me or my messaging or find themselves in this space if they were not also simultaneously on a spiritual journey, right? Most of us have spiritual businesses where we're selling like intangible services, right? We're selling transformation of some sort. And what I really feel is that when we decide to take this unconventional path, when we decide to create some sort of transformation based or spiritual business, we are stepping onto a journey of integration. And entrepreneurship and business is actually a very potent, often not so easy, but very potent journey in integrating and in meeting deeper versions of yourself, right? In finding and helping yourself reclaim your wholeness. Because at every new level that you meet, right, there's going to be deeper parts of your shadow. There's going to be deeper parts of your bad side that you are called upon to integrate. The work never really stops. And the perspective that I want to invite you into, right, is that every new challenge, right? So right now we're working through this challenge of visibility, right? We want to be more seen. Sometimes we bump up against financial challenges. Sometimes we bump up against interpersonal challenges. Sometimes we bump up against, challenges in terms of how we relate to ourselves, right? And that every challenge that you hit in business is an opportunity for you to reclaim and integrate deeper aspects of yourself. And the whole thing makes you more powerful. The whole thing makes you more magnetic. And so if you can begin to really adopt this perspective of like, everything is happening for me, and every challenge is actually an initiation into deeper levels of my power, it helps you reframe a lot of the like crunchy, like, why isn't this working? What's wrong with me? What's going on? Energy that we can get stuck. And one of my spiritual teachers called it swampy, right? Like when we get stuck in these spaces where we like want to beat our head against the desk and we want to low key like go and hide and run away, right? When we remind ourselves that, oh my gosh, this challenge is actually happening for me, right? What I see a lot, to speak to something more specific, something I'm seeing super alive and active in my periphery right now in terms of people that I'm connected to in the coaching industry and other feminine-led business owners is this idea of like the algorithm is against me, right? Obviously, we have censorship going on different platforms, and women who are working with certain energies, right? Their sensuality, their sexuality, other spaces as well, certain political messages. There's this idea like, oh my gosh, I'm being censored, and oh my gosh, I'm being oppressed. And even challenges like that, right? These challenges of like, oh my gosh, like the algorithm doesn't like my content, I'm getting shadow banned. These are all invitations, right? For us to integrate deeper levels of our power and for us to actually become deeper, more capable, more potent leaders, right? By how we choose to meet these challenges and what we choose to develop as we're navigating them. Okay. There's no like where we tend to get really stuck and where we tend to get really swampy, to quote one of my spiritual teachers, is when we get victimized, right? When we feel like, like my posts aren't getting shared, or nobody's liking my content, or the only people that like my content are people that never like buy from me, right? We tend to get in these sticky victimy narratives. And what I really want to invite you into, especially as you start to integrate, right, as we get towards the end of today's workshop and you start to integrate, right, your bad side, is to not allow yourself to get victimized, to really like feel the feelings, right? Feel the truth that's in your body. Give yourself a minute to process it, but don't get stuck there. Because when we get stuck in that victimized energy, we are handing our power away to whatever it is that we are blaming, right? So every time you blame the algorithm for why your posts are not getting seen, the algorithm has your fucking power, right? Every time you blame, Mercury retrograde or whatever the fuck else is going on in the sky for why you're not where you want to be in your business, you're handing your power over to the idea of Mercury retrograde, right? So really being conscientious, because we are like, those who are attracted to my work and those who kind of fall into this field are people who are here with a powerful message, right? They're here to do business in a new and different way. And that means that we're going to have to be willing to be innovative, right? We're going to have to be willing to come in face to face with challenges and not instantly get kicked back into that energy, right? Every challenge that comes across our path, especially the ones that come across our path as we build, develop, and scale our businesses, are challenges that our soul is giving us to expand, right? We expand through friction. We expand through challenge. We don't expand by just some like la-di-da, everything is easy and handed to us, right? Like that's not how we become powerful fucking feminine leaders, right? We expand by meeting these challenges, moving through the initiations that they present for us, and integrating and reclaiming these suppressed parts, this suppressed power that we have disconnected from. And so the challenge that you're facing right now in terms of visibility, right, in getting your message out to more people, in reaching more soul aligned people with your offers, with your message, with your coaching, whatever it is that you are selling, whatever it is that you are communicating right now through the vessel of your business, the challenge that's coming up for you around visibility is coming up for you, right? And this workshop, what we're going to do today is going to help you get really conscious and really clear on what specific gifts it's time for you to claim, on what specific aspects, right, it's time for you to call back home, okay? And without that crunchy challenge, without whatever it is for you, right? Visibility can mean so many things. If we're just starting out in our business, right? Visibility means getting those first few eyes on your offers, on your work, right? For some people who have been in the game for a while, visibility means hitting that next level, right? That next frontier of people to serve, right? And so whatever it is that's coming up for you, I really want you to fully own and sink into the understanding that this is happening for you. Maybe you're being rerouted, right? Maybe you're being called to really integrate something that, unless that was integrated, shit would have fallen apart down the road. So it's all happening for you. It's all your soul leading you and guiding you. And every challenge is an invitation to integrate deeper levels of your power. Okay? So when we are looking at our bad side, right? It is so, and I spoke about this yesterday, right? We have light and we have dark. And when we bring judgment into the equation, we cut off, reject, deny, suppress, and disown anything that we are afraid will lead to disconnection, right? So yesterday, during the journaling exercises, I had you guys reflect on these different 7-year cycles in your life, right? Because we are imprinted in 7-year chunks of time. 0 to 7, 7 to 14, 14 to 21, right? We go through these particular phases of development, okay? 0 to 7, if you think about who you were as a small child, it was all about getting into your body, right? You take a newborn and a 7-year-old, and like the amount of physical growth that happens during that phase of their life is phenomenal, right? Our soul is landing in our body, 0 to 7, okay? And so the particular imprinting that we get at that point in time is often really deeply coded in the body, okay? 7 to 14, when we're looking at that period of time, we are looking at our later childhood, our tween years, and this is when our emotional intelligence is being developed, right? We are learning how to feel things really deeply. Children at this age are often way more sensitive than small children are. They have hormonal changes, right? This is when we tend to begin puberty and all of the emotions that kick off with that. And so when we're looking at that middle chunk of time, we're looking at imprinting that really impacts our emotional self, right? Our emotional identity, how we treat our emotions, right? So there may be feelings that you learned were bad, right? Certain states of being that you learned were bad, right? And so for me, like to give an example, when I think back to that particular time in my life, like for me, being really emotional or having a lot of feelings really overwhelmed my parents, right? I was in true astrology, I'm a Pisces moon, so I'm a really deep, deep, deep feeler. And I was so sensitive. And so I would often have these really deep feelings that were overwhelming and that challenged my parents' capacity to hold me, right? And so I learned at a very young age that it was not appropriate or was not right, it was bad for me to allow these feelings to come through, because when I would allow them to come through, it would overwhelm the capacity of my parents, and I would either get sent to my room, I'd be pushed away, I'd get in trouble, I would be suppressed. And so there has been this reclamation for me, right, in really learning how to allow myself to be vulnerable, right, and allow myself to feel these big, deep feelings in safe spaces so that I'm not constantly pushing it all down, right? 14, this third stage of imprinting, 14 to 21. And I think yesterday I had you guys go even older, like to 25. This is all about our mental development, right? This is all about our intellectual development. And so what we learn here and what the authorities that were prominent during this stage of our life, right? And these tend to be teachers. These tend to be, if you ever went through any sort of post-secondary, right, university or college, there's usually some sort of bias that you would have adopted or learned in that post-secondary experience, right? And through these influences, through this imprinting, you're developing an idea of what's good and what's bad, right? And so for me, like when I even think about my university experience, I went to school for journalism here in Canada at Carleton in Ottawa. And I, I didn't really know a lot about politics or about, I knew about the world, but like not so much when I was, in high school. And I remember going to university, and there were a lot of like beliefs that I took on about the economy, about the society, about the political system, where I learned certain values and things were good, right? And certain things were bad. And as I've hit my 30s and I've really started to, do this deeper work, I've been looking at a lot of this imprinting that I received in my post-secondary years and really asking myself, like, is that true? Right? What did I cut myself off of, especially in business, right? Because there was this way where in university, right, I started to feel like capitalism was bad, right? That, this type of society, making money was bad, right? There was this way where like my education and the particular influences that I had in political classes and through friends and just, the general vibe on my campus was like, kind of like socialist, right? And everyone should be equal and everyone should have the same type of stuff. And that felt like the right sort of way to be back then. But as I, gotten into my own business and I've been self-employed and I've been, looking at my relationship to money and what I believe about money, like a lot of these ideas and a lot of these things that were deeply imprinted in me during this time, right, were not so conducive to business and to allowing myself to make money and to feeling good about making money, right? There was always this sort of like charge of guilt or shame. And when I've looked at that, there's a lot of that comes from these ideas and beliefs that I learned from the authorities in my life at that time, different profs, different friends, right? The media, where like this particular system was bad. Okay. So when we're looking at, our badness, and especially the stuff where I had you do it towards the end, right? Where what you're afraid people will say about you in your business, right? What you judge in other people, right? It's so important that we begin to take the charge out of this. Because if we're judging and we're shaming ourselves, right, for the badness, for these things that for these traits that we have learned are wrong, we have learned to suppress, we have learned to reject, right? Then we're going to continue to fear them, right? We're going to continue to fear the potential consequences of owning them, right? And so when we look at duality and we look at neutrality, like light and dark exist everywhere, right? Right now in my house, in the room that I'm in, I have lights on. If I were to turn the lights off and to be sitting in the dark, like I don't need to judge and shame that, right? It's just one is light and one is dark, right? It is what it is. And when we can get to the space of like isness, right? This is what I believe. This is what I have. This is who I am, without that ick or that feeling of like this is wrong. That's when we're really able to unlock and unearth the hidden power and gifts that we have cut ourselves off from in this suppressive relationship. Okay. So, what I want you guys to do now, whether you're here with me live or on replay, is bring out or look at that list of bad traits that I had you create yesterday. From your journaling questions that we went through, right? What were the bad traits, right? What were the patterns? What were the themes when you looked at all of that journaling that you came up with? Okay. And Emily, if you're here, feel free to share with me in the chat if you feel called, anything that's coming up for you around these themes. Okay, so bringing those front and center because we want to work with these now. Okay, we don't want to, because there's this way when we keep things really vague, we actually don't unlock it, right? We don't actually integrate it. Okay, so I can speak to some of my traits here. So when I've done this work, when I did my bad girl journaling and went through all of this, the biggest themes that I found, right? The bad things inside of me that I was demonizing, that I was judging, that I had suppressed, was disconnected from, denied, right? My sexuality, my sensuality, okay, being that provocative, right? Attention seeking. There was this way where I really received this message when I was young that seeking attention, that wanting attention, right, was bad, it was wrong, it was needy. There was also this way when I was growing up where the high achiever in me, like the part of me that wanted to be the best, the part of me that wanted to be excellent, right? I learned that that was bad because I remember being in grade 3 and being called, they called it at the time a browner, right? Like a teacher's pet. And there was this way where I realized, oh my God, like if I'm like if I bring my full fucking intelligence out and like own my multiplication tables like a badass 8-year-old, then all my friends are going to be jealous, right? All these people are not going to like me. They're not going to want to sit with me at recess. And so I began at that age to like allow myself to be smart, but not so smart that I was like the best or intimidated other people. It became this constant way I needed to measure myself, right? Emily says the main ones for her were not knowing enough and not fitting in. Okay, interesting. some of the other themes that came up for me were like lazy and self-indulgent. I learned that it wasn't good. It was bad to be lazy. It was bad to, take too much time for yourself, that I always had to be contributing in some way. Too emotional, too sensitive, self-serving. And then the big ones that came up for me, as it relates to business, was being so afraid to be seen as manipulative and being so afraid to be seen as greedy. Okay. So looking at your bad themes, right? For Emily, it's not knowing enough, not fitting in, right? And I'd be curious, Emily, when you reflect on those, like, for you, what was so bad about not knowing enough or not fitting in? Like, what was, like, when you hone in on that, like, what is the bad trait there? Is it like, being ostracized, not belonging, like, and I'd be curious how that showed up for you, how that showed up for you when you were young, and also like when you look at, business and marketing and visibility, right? How that shows up for you in terms of growing your business. I think it came from university and being expected to research, research, research to justify every opinion. Ah, okay, I feel you. It's like I'm not enough. I need to be backed by like 10 fucking cited research papers in order to feel like I know what I'm talking about. I feel you on that. I feel you. So what I want, yes, okay, what I want you to reflect on now, all right? And this is like a key piece, okay? We're gonna get to some journaling in a minute, but I want to illustrate this, is what is the hidden gift inside all of those bad traits, okay? If there was a gift in that, right? What would it be? Okay. So for Emily, this experience of like needing, to every point that she's making, have it backed by, 10 fucking papers and a bibliography, right? The gift in not knowing enough, right? What is that? If you don't know enough, you became very good at learning and researching, okay? But if you didn't develop, because that would be like the learning, the researching, the studying is a skill that you developed to compensate, right, for this bad trait, right? Okay, I don't know enough. So now I need to go and investigate and do all this stuff, which is that's a great skill. But there's a gift in also not knowing, right? Because when we don't know, we're actually in an open state, right? When we're open and we're curious, that is when new information and concepts get to come in, right? And there's this way where, like, academia, which is what you're speaking to here, is not really conducive to innovation, right? There's this way where like academia becomes about like using the words and the points of other people to back your opinions, right? So it's all sort of like recycled material and recycled concepts. And she says, I've learned that no one really knows everything. The experts are still learning, or should be. Yes. So when you don't know enough, right, the gift there is that you're open and you're humble and you're willing to be taught, right? You're willing to be shown. There's a part of like not knowing, and when we can own that, and instead of instantly moving away from it, right? Because there's this, oh my God, I don't know. I need to compensate for the fact that I don't know, and I need to fucking like get my glasses on and fucking Google the shit out of it and fucking know, right? Like, but if we don't know and we give ourselves the grace and the space to not know, that's when we get to be surprised by the mystery of life. That's when we get to be taken on an unexpected adventure. That's when we get to have something completely new and innovative drop in. It's the void space, right? And many of us have been taught, because I'm sure there are going to be other people on replay who deeply identify with this belief, right? it's like, oh my gosh, I don't know. Okay, this is terrifying. It's wrong for me not to know. I now have to go into the known world and, pull from all the information that already exists. But when you do that, you actually close down your system to being open for and available for, the mystery, for newness, for, if you think like thinking about some of the greatest inventors of our time, right? If I can't remember, I think it was Newton. I'm sorry if I'm gonna like botch this historical person, but I think it was Sir Isaac Newton that invented gravity, right? So if he only allowed himself to like plug into what existed, right? He never would have been able to have been open to have this revelationary download about gravity and the concept of gravity, right? Anybody who has ever brought anything new, innovative, and worthwhile into the world had to be willing to be in the unknown, right? I don't know. I don't know. Okay, if I don't know and I make it okay that I don't know, what am I open and available to receive, right? And so the gift there is your openness, the openness to the mystery, the openness to uncertainty, right? And when you make there's something wrong with you not knowing, right? Then all of a sudden you close yourself down to that and you're just over here recycling and regurgitating all of the stuff that's already been generated, right? So can you see what I mean here by the hidden gift? So for me, if I look at some of the bad traits that I spoke to a few minutes ago, right? When I look at, judging my sensuality or my sexuality, right? Well, the hidden gift in our sexual and sensual energy is that is actually our power, right? Our sensual energy, our sexual energy, this is the energy that creates life. This is energy, right? And so if I am suppressing, denying, rejecting my sexuality, I am suppressing, denying, and rejecting my life force, my power, the very energy required to create anything that I may want to create, right? If I keep judging my attention seeking as bad and I don't allow myself to be attention seeking, right? Well, I'm cutting myself off of cultivating connection, building relationships, right? Because when you're seeking attention, you're seeking connection from people, right? I'm not allowing myself to be witnessed. I'm not allowing myself to be connectable. Well, damn, if I'm not allowing myself to be connectable because I'm so afraid somebody's going to think I'm attention seeking, right? And I keep that all hidden, it's going to be very hard for me to build the necessary relationships in my business to connect with people online through my content and get the momentum and visibility going, right? Because heaven forbid someone say that I'm attention seeking. Let me just be super quiet and humble over here in the corner and not open myself up to any sort of relationship building, right? With the high achiever, the Browner part, right? The hidden gift in that is if I own that, yeah, I'm a fucking high achiever, right? I get to experience my excellence. I get to experience what I'm capable of. But if I never allow myself to own that because I'm so afraid of that label or of the disconnection that might come from that, right? Then I don't ever get to experience the fullness of my own potential. I don't ever get to experience the gift of my own excellence in action, right? Or lazy, self-indulgent. Okay. If I think it's so bad for me to be lazy and so bad for me to be self-indulgent, well, I never get to nourish myself, to rest, to have boundaries, right? I'm constantly in this people-pleasing energy of constantly needing to contribute and make sure everyone's okay because heaven forbid someone call me out for being lazy, right? This way where I was overworking and overdoing it without taking care of myself. And if I'm not nourished and rested, then what I'm offering to the world is like a half-assed offering, right? So there's a gift in being lazy, right? There's also a gift in being too emotional, too sensitive, right? For me, it's like my sensitivity, as I've learned to embrace it and as I've learned to embrace my emotions, has taught me an awful lot about the world, has allowed me to become so attuned to subtlety, right? As a mother, my sensitivity and my attunement to my children is like so precise. But if I, judged myself and shamed myself for being too sensitive and kept myself cut off from that, right? I would not be able to have the awareness that I have generated, not just with my kids, but in so many other relationships and areas of my life, right? To feel the pulse of things in my business, to feel the truth beneath the surface, right? Sensitivity is such a gift, but yes, it can make people uncomfortable, right? Yes, my emotions can make people uncomfortable, right? But when I learn how to hold them and work with them, they become a gift, okay? Manipulative and greedy. So these are ones that these come up a lot in business, right? Especially for spiritual people. Sales can be this whole fucking awkward, like, thing, right? Because we don't want to be seen as being money hungry, or we don't want to be seen as being greedy, or when it comes to marketing, like we don't want to be seen as being manipulative, right? Well, what is the hidden gift in being manipulative? Is that when you're manipulative, you are convincing, you are articulate, right? You are connected to somebody, you can read them, right? You are able to use your articulation and almost like this energy of like motivation to guide them towards an outcome, right? But if you are so afraid to be seen as manipulative, or you judge manipulation as so bad, right? Then you're actually disconnected from the gifts of articulation, from the gift of being really able to connect and read somebody, which is so important if you're doing any sort of close proximity work with people, right? Greedy, okay? This is a big one too. I don't want to be seen as greedy. People are going to judge me if I charge this for my services, or if people find out that I do this spiritual work and this is what it costs, they're going to think this about me, right? Well, the truth is, the hidden gift in being greedy is you know what you deserve. You have standards for yourself. You're capable of generating resources. You're capable of creating abundance, right? And if you never step into the ring, if you never ask for what it is that you want to receive, if you constantly sell yourself short because you don't want to be seen as greedy, right? I'm going to guess every single person who has that on here is going to have a resource issue as well, right? There's not going to feel like there's enough money coming in because your fear of being seen as greedy, right? The big bad greedy person, Grinch, is going to make it very difficult for you to generate resources or to hold a fucking standard for yourself because if I take on that projection, it's so bad about me, right? But the truth is, leaning into that is exactly what you need to make that next level possible, right? So the next layer here, now that we can see, okay, all this bad shit about us, there are some hidden gems and some hidden gifts in there. And those gifts are likely the exact thing that we need to take it to the next level, right? Now, this is an important layer, okay? Because we want to get clear on what are these gifts in service to? What is my bad side? And integrating this bad girl in me, what is that in service to? Okay. What is my manipulation in service to? Right. And so when we think about this, right, we want to deepen and ask ourselves, well, what does our business stand for? What is the message? What does our messaging serve? Right. So for me, when I look at my business, right, I use my gifts to help women unlock deeper expression, right? So if I'm using the gifts in my manipulation, my ability to be articulate, my ability to connect and read people, and those gifts are in service to a woman deepening her expression, whether she is reading my content on Instagram, whether she's here with me in this workshop live or on replay, right? Whether I'm on a one-on-one call, right? All of a sudden that manipulative, I could manipulate and it could be bad, right? I could use manipulation just to like fuck somebody's life over. Okay, I could do that. Could be bad, right? But when I'm able to use the hidden gifts in the manipulation that I'm burying to serve something bigger than myself, right? To serve somebody's self-expression, to help a woman come out of herself, unlock her throat and say what she came here to say, all of a sudden it's in deep service, not just to me and my business and my company, but to her and her soul journey on this planet, right? So the deeper layer here, it's finding the gifts and then finding what those gifts are meant to be in service to, right? What is your bad side meant to be in service to? Okay, beyond you, right? When I look at, greed, what is my greed in service to? Well, it's in service to like, my life, but it's also in service to nourishing me and my family, right? In a way where I can continue to do this work. Okay. Like I'm self-employed here, right? If I'm not eating, if I don't have lights on, if I can't pay my bills and take care of myself, I can't really be in service to the deep expression of the women around me, right? So all of a sudden, when I reframe the way that I'm looking at that greed, it's not just like to be like some Wolf of Wall Street, type of person who's just like, doing drugs and fucking people, right? It's actually a deep service to me and what I'm here to serve, to be a well-resourced woman on the earth today, okay? So finding the hidden gift in your bad side and then finding out, well, what are these gifts in service to, okay? And then the next key here that I want to speak about is when it comes to integration, all right, and this is like so important because I have done this and it's really messy, is that when we unearth something new, right? So for me, like, for example, okay, I won't even get to the example yet. I'll say the point. So when we unearth something new, when there's something new that we're trying on, right? When we're integrating a new way of being, there's this tendency to take it really far. There's this tendency to like pendulum swing, okay? And like I have totally done this, over the last couple of years as I've been really healing like people pleasing patterns. I've definitely become like super boundaried in ways that are a little bit of a pendulum swing, right? Now I'm coming like back to center. But there's this way where we take it really far, right? So let's just say that you are, yesterday somebody had shared one of the things that came up for them was this idea that they're too annoying, right? Oh my gosh, if I post too much, I'm going to be too annoying. And then you realize, okay, well, the hidden gift in that is I need to be seen, right? The hidden gift in being annoying is people are actually able to feel me, right? If they're annoyed, my work is activating them in some kind of way, right? So the pendulum swing here would be like, oh my gosh, okay, I need to turn it up. I need to be seen. I need to post. And then they go and post like 7 times a day. They start to cold message people in the DMs, right? Like they take it really far, okay? That is not in service often to integration because what it does is it takes us way out here and often creates a pattern or behavior that our system cannot actually hold, right? We have to integrate and digest in a way where our body, where our nervous system, where our energy fields can actually hold and integrate bit by bit, bite by bite, this new behavior, right? And like for me, when I think about, my journey with boundaries, because like I didn't even used to know what boundaries were like years ago, right? I was definitely somebody who was like really overgiving, really people pleasing, right? And like a lot of my relationships, when I began to assert boundaries because I was so messy and like so extreme with them, it really created like some unnecessary rifts in a lot of my relationships because I went from being like really nice to like really bitchy. And there was not a lot of context or grace given to people in my life for why that was, right? So the concept I want to introduce to you guys here, and maybe some of you have heard of this, is microdosing, okay? Microdosing. We want to integrate our bad girl in micro doses, all right? So for Emily, this energy of not knowing enough, of being in the unknown, right? Allowing yourself to integrate that bit by bit, right? if you were to take a microdose, right, of sitting in the void, a very small amount of just allowing yourself to stay open, what would that create in your life, right? What would that create in your business, right? What might that lead to? Okay. If you were to take a microdose of just letting yourself not fit in, right? Of just being an outsider, what might that create in your life? What might that create in your business, right? If I was to take for somebody who has the greed thing, right? If you're to take a micro dose of greed, okay, just a little bit, you don't have to become, some skeezy snake oil salesman who's like robbing people, but you take a little microdose, just a little snack, right? A little Scooby snack of greed. I bet that's going to create some changes in your relationship to resources, right? If you were to take a little microdose of being annoying, right? How would that change how you show up online? How would that change how you post, right? How would that change your relationship to social media, right? Well, with the microdose, you probably would stop hiding and you'd probably get into a more regular rhythm of allowing yourself to be seen, right? So with this concept of microdosing, okay, we're able to integrate our bad traits at a capacity that our system can hold and in a way that allows us to start to generate momentum and expand our visibility in a way where we can hold it, right? Because if we pendulum swing and we create, because what happens is when we pendulum swing, sometimes we take things too far out, and when we can't hold that, we clamp back down, and this is where we can get victimized, right? So for me, with the boundary example, for what this looks like, it's like, okay, so I've gone from being like the nicest person in the world, and now I'm like a super fucking rigid bitch. And now my relationships are kind of like falling apart from that. So I tell myself a story over here of like, see, this is why I can't have boundaries. No one likes me when I have boundaries. Well, that's not really the truth. It's just that my boundaries went from non-existent to extreme overnight, right? So if I would have done a more gentler microdosing process with that, it would have looked like me, asserting little things that felt safe and comfortable in a softer way so that I was maintaining connection with people, right? And not completely shutting them out. Okay. So what I want you guys to do now is I want you to work this through. Okay. I'm going to post some journaling questions here. I'm going to give you guys about 5 minutes to go through them. And then we're going to, for Emily here with me live, if she feels called to share, we're going to work this through. Okay. So that you can see what specific steps that you can begin to take in your marketing, in your work, in your content creation to integrate that bad side and to begin to open up your field of visibility. Okay, I'm going to share my screen, put on some music, and we'll go for about 5 minutes. Okay, so here are the questions. And if you guys are watching on replay, like don't skip this. Okay, this is like to skip this type of work is where people like get stuck, right? When we're skipping the actual like nitty gritty work is to just keep things mental and vague. And this is where people keep looping. So digest your shit. Okay. I'm going to give you guys one more minute here and come back. And play. Feel free to digest and write. Like, it's really like being witnessed in what you uncover is a huge piece of alchemy, right? Other people seeing your shit and seeing you in your process is what sort of like anchors it all. So taking the time to either create a post in the group or to comment underneath this video where I've posted it with your answers to these questions is really going to support you in the integration of that. And I'd be happy to come and provide some feedback. You can tag me if you would like that. Okay, Emily, is there anything you would like to share around what came up for you in your inquiry here?
Yeah, I think I'll just talk because it may be too much to type. So I run a health coaching business. My purpose or my offering to the world is to help people lead healthy lives unburdened by dis-ease, or what modern medicine would call disease. Um, and so just back to my 2 points about not knowing enough or not fitting in, if I did a microdose, I may actually stand out by being authentic and gain the trust of my followers more easily. I don't remember what the third prompt was, but what I wrote was, so I am familiar with human design, not at your level at all, but so I'm a generator with sacral authority. So something that I could do would just be to listen to my gut more and trust that sacral, and still post with care, like post online with care and authenticity.
I love that. And I feel like for you, like I just looked at your page very briefly when I was waiting for the journaling, is that there's actually such, I feel like your message, and when you talk about, the not knowing enough, not being seen, like the gift in that is that you're actually meant to bring, like it really feels like a new wave of knowledge and information into the world, right? Like breaking away from that conventional matrix style of health and nutrition, right? And so not knowing enough of the like traditional information is actually in deep service to the path that you're meant to walk, right? Because it's helping people break away from that. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I'd say I'm really, really feeling that right now. Like I've sort of newly started doing this as a business. I've always done it for a long time, just helping friends and family in general, but it was with their encouragement lately and some new people that I've met that have said, like, you need to do this. Like, this is your passion, this is your calling, just do it. And so I've just recently started doing it as in exchange for money. Like,
And I'm sure that's bringing up a whole bunch of like imposter
yeah.
syndrome feelings. And you're like, oh my God, like I feel like
Holy
I
shit.
need to,
Yeah.
all the conditioning of like university and needing like all the backing of all of it for sure. And so microdosing, right? Like it's gonna be an edge for you. I feel like showing up in that power, it's gonna feel edgy, right? For a while until it's like flowing, and that gets to be okay. If you can make space for like, this is going to be a little messy, but I'm devoted to sharing like the knowledge that has come through me and that I have unlocked through my direct life experience, not what I've been taught in like textbooks or, you know, through the conventional system. And I'm going to bring that up and forward. It takes tremendous courage. And it also takes the ability to hold, right? Like triggering people, right? Because when we're integrating that bad side and when we don't want to be seen, it's like we're afraid of people's reactions to us, right? And one of the things that's really supported me is understanding that when somebody has a reaction to my content, right? It actually doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with me or my content. It actually means that my content has often done its job or served its purpose because it has triggered them. And if somebody is triggered, it means that they're feeling something. They were hit by something. There was a penetration there. Something got in there, right? And sometimes when people get hit by something or activated, right? That's another word I use. They can feel like, wow, this is amazing. Like, I feel this, like, yes. And sometimes there's this instant rejection of it because it's jostled something in their identity or in their self concept that is like, oh, too much for them, right? And so when we are like posting and sharing and marketing and putting ourselves out there, it's like if we can understand that, you know, somebody's reaction doesn't mean we did something wrong. It actually means that they're now in a process that we started, right? One that if they're capable of holding themselves in that process is probably going to lead them on a beautiful transformation because you planted a seed, but that seed is bringing up uncomfortable emotions, uncomfortable, you know, it's stripping away parts of their identity. And that's a really uncomfortable process. But if we can just like allow people to have that process and continue to do our thing, right, and neutralize the sensations that we can feel from their reactions, we can stay out and we can stay seen without doing this thing where we feel like we have to duck and hide because we've done something wrong. Does that make sense?
Yes, definitely.
Totally. Yeah. So I feel like for you, it's just continuing to share like what's coming through for you and being willing to stand out, being willing to push people's buttons, being willing to go against the unconventional grain and to like stand in your knowledge, right? And back yourself and see almost like the ruffling of feathers as a sign that you're doing your job, as a sign that things actually are landing, even though it's uncomfortable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I said to a friend, I was like, when I get my first like troll comment, it'll be like another level I've unlocked.
Yes, totally. And so it's like almost like working. I want to give you almost the assignment to like work for the troll comment. Like, can that be almost like the goal? You know,
Mhm.
instead of because if you take the pressure off of like needing it to all be perfect and needing, you know, it to all be so smooth, and you embrace sort of like the mess of like, okay, like I'm actually gonna step into pushing buttons a little bit, right? And stepping into that standing out edge, like I feel like that like flips the whole thing on its head, you know, and gives you that like confidence and energy to put yourself out there in a way where you're almost like bring it the fuck on, you know.
Mhm. Yeah.
I love that. Love that. Is there anything else coming through that you want to share?
Just when you mentioned that like this would be like I'm bringing up a lot of things like I know when I got my first client that like was just like a random person, not like a friend or family, I was like so uncomfortable. I was like, holy shit, I have to actually now like help and guide this person and like they're just I don't have a relationship with them. It's literally just for money. Like I was like, I mean, you develop a relationship, but it is like that is like a feeling that I did not expect and I was not ready for.
Totally. And that shows you where you can get stronger, right? Of like, and there'll be more. Like I'm sure whenever you create your first program or you put, you know, some sort of new offer, it's like every new edge invites deep, uncomfortable feelings because that's when you start to question yourself. It's like, fuck, do I actually know all this? Like, am I what I say I am? Right. And it's all just an invitation for you to like dig deeper into like, no, yes, I am. right? It helps you fortify, it helps you get stronger, it helps you sharpen your skills, it helps, all of it is developing you, you know? And if you can be surrendered to that process and sort of look at it with that lens, every challenge and every uncomfortable feeling that comes with those challenges is an opportunity for you to integrate more of your power and more of your like magnetism and more of like that gift, that medicine that you carry that's coming through you, right? In terms of health and wellness, like you will master that craft and get so much better at it every time you're willing to like lean into that uncomfortable edge, you know?
Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. I'm excited for you.
Thanks.
Okay, I'm gonna pop you off mute here and then I'm just gonna wind down. Okay. Okay, so for those of you who are on replay, feel free to drop your awarenesses, drop what you're taking from this, drop what you're microdosing in the comments here or in the community feed. And for those of you who are interested in being supported during your integration of what you have unlocked here, I want to invite you into my next group container, which is called Hot Mess. And this is all about taking hot, messy action to grow our business, right? Hot, messy action to be seen online in our marketing, right? Because this work of integrating our bad girl and integrating our edge, it's messy, right? It requires grace. It requires holding. It requires us being willing, right? To be seen as imperfect and to be seen as, you know, in a lot of these ways where we don't want to be seen because our good girl tells us, oh my God, it's so bad, I don't know enough, or I'm not ready, or oh my gosh, can I do this, right? This process of allowing it to be messy is key. And so if that is speaking to you, if you would like support with that, you can reach out to me privately and I can send you the link to Hot Mess. We are going to be starting that container on January the 9th. So you've got some time to kind of like mull it over. And I do have a lot about that container on my Instagram page, and I will post the link in the group as well. Okay. Thank you guys for jamming with me. I am so excited to watch what seeds this planted in you and to watch them unfold over the coming days and weeks and to get to know your edgy bad girls a little bit more. I'm very excited. Thank you, Emily. Thank you to all of you guys on replay, and we will jam again soon, I hope. Okay, bye.